Hey everybody, happy Sunday to you. It's Ashley here from Lovely Commotion. I am hoping you are having a fantastic day and maybe it's starting to warm up a little bit where you live, if it hasn't already. Um, Today I want to talk about some cutting tips. So that is what we're going to focus on today. I have a couple little tools to show you just to see if you have seen these tools before. And then I also have a cutting continuum for you as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Cutting skills and preschool go hand in hand because many times this is the first time that children have been allowed to use scissors, right? Parents obviously keep them out of reach for safety reasons, and many don't think to let their preschoolers have a turn with scissors. But we know that they can totally handle them as long as, they are kid scissors and safe blunt scissors. But it usually is the first time. So it's important that we understand that that may not be something that they've ever put in their hand and they know how to use. So I've got a continuum of 8 different steps that children can go through. I like to make these visuals for myself as well as for you guys because it just makes it so much easier for me to remember. I'm such a visual person. And so let me pop that up for you so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. There will be a link in the description. So here it is, the cutting continuum. And this you can grab for free, but it will walk you through. It goes from top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the first one, I'm going to blow this up for you so you can see it a little bit better, is building those fine motor muscles for the open and shut motion. So I'm hoping you can see that here. So before our friends can even begin to really hold those scissors and before we can expect them to be able to use them in the way that they were intended, it's important that we remember that they have to have those strong muscles and they have to have that motion of opening and shutting. And so for many of us, that is what we're doing with our preschoolers, right? We are really working on building those muscles and practicing that opening and shutting motion, right? And then number 2 on the continuum is holding scissors correctly when getting ready to cut. So, having that thumb in the smaller circle hole and our thumb up when we're cutting, and then having our arm down as well. And then number 3, snipping paper while maybe even being held by someone else or maybe just while it's lying on the table. Step 4, using the opposite helping hand when they're going to snip. Step 5, cutting a straight line, then they move on to a curved line. They can move on to a circle before they move on to more of those complex shapes, like maybe a square or heart or just whatever their heart desires for them to cut out. So it's important that we remember that they go along this continuum so that we're not asking them to maybe do some tasks that they are not ready for yet, because some of those obstacles that we're seeing really can be tied back to this cutting continuum, and maybe that friend is somewhere different on the continuum. And that's what's so awesome about a continuum, because it's continuously moving and children are in different spots and they constantly can move to a different spot based on kind of what they're picking up and learning. So I have that for you for free. I will put a link in the description. And then along with it, I also popped in some just really easy cutting strips for them to work on. So this kind of follows the straight lines, and then we've got a curved, and then we've got more of the back and forth line. So those are all in there for you. So feel free to grab those if you think it would be something helpful for you. But one of the first things I wanted to talk about was when we see struggles, the easiest, best thing for us to do is kind of back up in the continuum. So if we see a kiddo, not able to open and shut those scissors, or they're really struggling with just getting their fingers in there and even holding them, then we need to back up to that very first step and start working on those fine motor muscles in that open and shut motion. And so I have some tools to show you that are more specific to that open and shut motion that we're wanting them to work on. So if you are seeing issues and you need to step back to step 1, then it's time to just kind of move away from those scissors for the moment so that we can encourage use of these tools that'll help build those muscles. So some great tools that you can definitely use, and you probably have many of them in your classroom. So this may just be thinking of them as a tool for building muscles for the open and shut motion of scissors and getting them out maybe more often. But tweezers for sure. These are from Learning Resources. They're like the alligator ones, and these are great because they're smaller and so they fit more in the hand, and so they're able to use them a little bit better if they're still maybe whole fisting things, or, like their markers or their crayons. And this may be more helpful for them because it has this back end back here that can kind of fit into their hand a little bit better. So these are great little tweezers, great for transferring. Kids love to transfer to sort, just even getting out your pom-pom balls and having them transfer them to a colored bowl, right? Something so simple, but it's really working that open and shut. So they're having to learn how to squeeze, which is that push down like we do when we cut, and then the release so that they can open back up their scissors. So these are great. And then when they're kind of ready and using those with ease, you can get more of the tong type. And these are really actually pretty tricky because they are so much longer and they don't have so much grip here. And I honestly can't remember where I got these. It might have been like the dollar store or something, but these are great for our kiddos who maybe have mastered these littler ones and moving on to these bigger tongs. And they are great for picking up little items as well. Anytime we're doing anything that maybe we use a little item, whether it's playing a game or doing an activity, it's great just to put these out there to encourage the use so that they're working on the opening and shut motion there as well. Bug catchers are super fun ones. They are the ones that basically have scissor holes, and the top is to catch a bug or put in there whatever you please. We put these in our sensory tub constantly because pretty much most of what's in there can be scooped up, right? These ones even have holes, so if you were to use them with water, that would totally work too. But it is reinforcing that motion of open and shut, and it's really getting them ready to use those scissors, but in a way that still allows them to explore them more. They're more forgiving than scissors. We know if we hold scissors a certain way, they won't cut well. These are more successful, so they're practicing that open and shut with maybe not getting the frustration from not holding them absolutely correctly. So these are fantastic. I think these are Learning Resources too. Yep, they are. These little bug catchers. Another fun thing that I also got from Learning Resources is these eyedroppers, and obviously you can use many different ones. You can use medicine droppers. Those are a little bit smaller. You can use pipettes. Those are pretty tricky to use too. These are great for beginners because they have the big top and it kind of fits in their hand better. But again, it's that squeeze and release that we're kind of looking for when they're working on the open and shut motion. So this is great in the sensory center. Obviously great for liquid. We use them sometimes just to transfer colors, right? And just give them water with some food coloring in it, and they can transfer it onto their paper or transfer it onto a coffee filter. So many different ideas for this. Even just taking them outside in the summer and having them, go around and maybe water some plants or whatnot with it. They just love using new tools. So this is a great one for that too. Clothespins are always great for open and shut. Turkey basters, I haven't found one lately. I don't have a turkey baster right now, but I've been on the lookout for one. They're really not as easy to find as you would think, but those are great too, kind of work on this same type of motion. And then we also love our hole punch, our single hole punch. And this one is reduced effort. I got it off Amazon, and so it is not near as hard as your regular hole punches. Some of those are very tricky, and it is very hard for those little muscles to squeeze them together. And so this reduced effort one has been awesome. But again, same thing, right? They're doing it over and over again because they're wanting to punch those holes. So this is a great way to build up those muscles as well. Let's talk about another struggle you might see, which might be holding the scissors incorrectly, right? They may be holding them upside down. They may be, oh, most likely holding them upside down. That's what we see the most. Maybe they're really struggling with a strong, like they're getting them open, but or they're getting them shut. This is what I see the most. They can chomp, but then it's the open back up that seems to be the problem, right? That is going back to using these tools. But if they're holding them just completely incorrectly, like maybe they've got them upside down, or they've got their thumb in the wrong hole, or they're holding them, differently. They've tried lots of different things because many times it's the first time they're using them. So it's just something new for them to figure out and to explore. But if they're holding them upside down, one great tip is putting a sticker on the thumb edge of those scissors, or even their thumb, to remind them that their thumb goes up. We also like to sing a song at the beginning of the year. I always teach them how to hold their scissors, whether they have experience or not, so we can just kind of all start on a base level, and is to the tune Farajaka, and we just sing thumbs up, when we cut, we can cut with scissors, open and shut, open and shut. So as they are working with their scissors, I can sing that to kind of give them that auditory clue of whoop, gotta flip them. Sometimes that takes a while for them to catch on to, but it is another great tool instead of just saying flip your scissors, singing it. Also, sometimes we might see we've got our scissors held correctly, but our elbow is way up here. And so when we're cutting, it's a little bit harder because our elbow is way up here. And this is something I had a friend doing this year, and I saw this tip, and I would love to give credit if you came up with it. I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but it was to put a folder under the arm. So just, basically anything, but just like a folder, stick it under their arm and have them try to hold that there while they're cutting. So it puts their scissors in a better position. Because honestly, if you're trying to cut, and these are my big scissors, I didn't bring my little scissors home to show you with, but if you're trying to cut way up here, and maybe you're up here, but you got issues, and your scissors are going to be on the side, and they just don't cut as well when they aren't lined up correctly. And so reducing that frustration by putting that folder under there automatically brings them in the correct position. And that worked wonders for my little one this year. That was kind of having that elbow up issue. So that is another idea for you if you haven't seen that before. Also, if a child can snip but doesn't yet use their other hand to hold the paper, some ideas for you might be is, for starters, teaching them, right? So they may have this piece of paper and they don't know even how to hold it. And so I usually will have them pick it up with their non-dominant hand, and we just learned that from observing them, right? And I have them pick it up, and wherever they naturally hold it, I'll sometimes put a dot there. And so when they come back to hold it, I'll say, put your thumb on the dot. So that's where you're going to hold it. And then we get our scissors out and we can start snipping that way. Just showing them basically how they can use this hand to help this hand. So this is your helper hand. Put all your fingers on, because sometimes it's just like they want to hold it like this, or they want to be like, they just do odd things, right? And so that little dot is like, oh yeah, okay, I can put my thumb there and grab this piece of paper, and that's where I can hold it. And then I also teach them not to grasp too close to where they're cutting. So, their fingers obviously can get in the way, and we don't want any little nicks or cuts on their fingers. So trying to teach them that if the scissors are getting close to your fingers, make sure to move your fingers away, right? And so with those free cutting strips that are in with the Cutting Continuum, you can kind of practice some of that because they are smaller strips, and that makes it easier. Because think about it, if you're using this big piece of paper and you're trying to cut it, and you've probably done this as an adult, right? I've got my really big piece of paper, and as I'm trying to hold it, it flops over on me. And when it's flopping over, it makes it harder to cut. And so children need smaller pieces of paper when they're learning to cut, not a full-size piece of paper, because it's just folding on them. It's constantly flipping around and they can't get control of it. And that's something we as adults have just mastered the art of kind of holding it in a certain way, but that's just frustration for them. And so smaller, but not too small that they're so close to their fingers when they're cutting. So it's kind of a fine line. I like to start with like a fourth of regular piece of paper, cut it in fourths is kind of a great size. Moving to a half, they usually can do a half piece of paper pretty well, but those full pieces of paper, I generally kind of wait for them to move towards that in the art center and see if they think that they can handle it. But it is, while they're learning to cut, a little bit harder. So there are some ideas for you around cutting, but the main thing I want you to remember is look at the cutting continuum and kind of go through that. Can your children go through these steps? Yes, I've watched them be able to do this. And this isn't something you would have to necessarily sit them down and say, show me how you can cut a line, or show me how you snip, or show me how you use your helping hand. Just observing them, right? While they're in the art center, or maybe you're doing a fun process art project where you've gotten out the scissors and they can cut collage pieces. Just really observing and kind of seeing where each kiddo is. And then, supporting them where they are based on that continuum. And if it's not necessarily to use scissors quite yet, that's okay. Have an activity ready for them that incorporates some of those tools that we talked about that really encourage that open shut motion to build up those muscles even more, so that when they do use scissors, they aren't meeting frustration, because that's the one thing we want to make sure we're not doing, is handing them a pair of scissors and not teaching them how to use it, and them not having the muscle or skills behind it and just getting frustrated, and then they don't want to do it anymore, right? They don't think it's fun. Most kids love to cut, and most kids become really great cutters just from doing it, right? Doing it through play, doing it through art. But sometimes we have to be there and make sure that we back up and go back to the step that maybe they need a little extra support on. And that's okay, right? Because that's the beauty of our children and, well, all of us. We all are, we're all our own people. And so sometimes we're not all on the exact same step at the same time, and that's okay. So grab the cutting continuum, grab those free cutting strips if you want them. I showed you the picture of them. I just copied them onto colored paper. I actually used cardstock mainly because it held its shape better when they tried to cut it. And it also took a little bit more force. That didn't seem to deter them. The force wasn't the issue. It was just being able to hold the strip without it flopping over on them. So that worked well for beginning of the year, like beginning cutting. And then definitely starting with those straight lines before moving to any of the other lines. So that is all there for you. I would love it if you would drop a comment and let me know what kind of things you do to prepare your cutters in your classroom. Kind of a funny sounding word, but let me know if you have any other tools that you absolutely love to build those fine motor muscles and that open and shut motion. I would love some new tools to add to my toolbox. And drop me a note and let me know if you have any other tips and tricks, because we can all use tips and tricks when it comes to cutting, because sometimes, it doesn't come as easily, or some of our friends do need that extra support. And it's amazing what one little trick or one little idea can just so help. So, it can just like turn it around. They're like, oh my gosh, now it works. So if you've got any of those, we would love to hear them. Drop them in the comments, and go grab your cutting continuum if you would like. And then if you found this helpful, I would absolutely love it for you to share with a friend, a teacher friend, and just kind of get the word out there about some ideas behind cutting. So I will see you all next week, and I thank you for joining me today. I hope maybe you learned a little something, or maybe even just a little reminder. And then again, I would love you to share. So drop anything in the comment that would be helpful for us. Thanks. See ya.